if you are looking for, if you're looking to find a way between these are how the points work and this is my results I want to get, it's that great stepping stone between the two.
All right, welcome everyone back to ShinKyu University. I'm really excited to be interviewing my dear friend and student Dierdre today. Dierdre is one of the first students who came into the ShinKyu program, and she has been just doing quite amazing. I often talk about Dierdre as being my main student. She also works with me in Bumblebee in my clinic as well. So she's definitely had a unique journey, and I think her story is really inspirational. So we have come here on ShinKyu to talk about it. So tell me, Deirdre, um, just tell me a little bit about your journey as an acupuncturist so far.
Yes. So I was originally a massage therapist. I was a massage therapist for about 15 years or so. And I kind of decided that it was finally time to figure out what my next step in life is. And had always really been interested in acupuncture, just from my own journey, health journey. And also my mom had cancer and she did acupuncture all throughout her treatments and everything. It was just really amazing. So finally decided that it was time for acupuncture school. And so I enrolled at the TCM school here in Denver, Colorado, and realized that I absolutely love acupuncture. And even though a lot of it didn't make any sense, I was going to roll with it because I knew I would finally get there at some point. And along the way, Maya, you were not teaching yet at this school, but
Um,
we met at like a lunch and learn or something like that. And so kind of was my first introduction to anything Japanese. And especially when I found out I had just had a baby, I had a like 10-week-old or something at the time, and discovered that you did pediatric acupuncture. And my son had a lot of reflex issues. So decided that I was like, well, I should probably learn more about this. I hear there's something to this acupuncture thing for treating yourself and your children. And so was very fortunate to have the opportunity to not only hook up with Maya, but actually kind of firsthand discover what her treatment and her Yashino-Miti style was all about.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, at what, remind me again, you joined into ShinKyu right, it was like right after you graduated, right?
It was right before I graduated. I was studying for board.
Okay.
I was in my last trimester, my last few weeks of my trimester. And you had told me about starting Shinkyu and I knew at that point that I wanted to do Japanese style. I was pregnant. I was pretty first
That's
trimester
right.
pregnant, and I started to come to you for treatments. I was like, this is it. This is what I need in my life. And so when you had started Shinkyu, I was like, oh yeah, no, this is perfect opportunity. So it was probably maybe 6 weeks before I graduated that I started.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would love to hear, before I ask my next question, just a little bit more on that. Like, how did you feel about starting ShinKyu while you were studying for boards? Like, how did that go for you?
It There was a lot of factors going on. It was COVID. So everything was closed down. I was studying for my 4 boards. I was like 8 weeks pregnant. There's a lot of factors in that one. So there definitely was a little bit of compartmentalization of just being like, I have to get through boards.
Yeah.
And so just kind of focusing a little bit on that. But it was perfect timing in my education because I knew that I was graduating in like 8 weeks or something. And I was like, okay, well, this is real life after this. My whole purpose of taking boards, at the time we could take boards while we were still in school, was being able to practice as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And so it was really good timing with my educational thing because it allowed me to be like, okay, let me start these foundations. So
Hmm.
when I go into practice, I can kind of bypass my whole like TCM training and like just start practicing in more Japanese style.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, and I think that's really huge because a lot of people waver and they're like, oh, I have to focus on my boards or I have to focus on school or this. And I think, as you said, there is a little bit of compartmentalization that comes into play there when you're still in school or still taking your boards. But, you know, it can be a really big difference to your treatment when you can start straight off the bat with a Japanese style approach rather than going with your TCM. I think that's
100.
huge shifts.
Yeah. And I've had a lot of people ask me that too. It's like, how were you able to transition from TCM to Japanese? And for me, it was like I didn't transition, you know, it was
Yeah.
kind of like my practices. I knew that I wanted to practice this style. And by learning it when I was still kind of in school and again being pregnant, like I didn't go full blown into practice. I had birthed a child and had a little mini maternity leave in there.
Yep.
But it really helps being able to know that knowing that this, not only this was the style I wanted, but having the foundations of it before I fully started my practice.
Yeah, that's super beneficial. And I think it's really led to your success really as with a strong practice. And then we can see that in your clientele with the retention rate and all of that too. But um I'm wondering like what has driven what three things have you learned, like top three things that you have learned in Shinkyu that you think have led to your success? And on top of that, like what do you think has made the biggest difference for you being in Shinkyu?
Good question. So I think the top things about ShinKyu that have led to my success is obviously learning the foundations of like how to needle, how to do moxa, how, your oshide, your sashide, your posture. But beyond that is the repetition and reinforcement of it through ShinKyu. So it's one thing to learn it at a workshop or something, but then you're kind of like on your own and you're like, good luck. Here are your skills in life, but they may or may not work out for you.
Yeah.
So just being able to constantly have that check-in is lovely. And for me, and just how I learn a lot is very much like I have to do something in order to learn it, in order to retain it. The other thing too is just having access to you and not just because like obviously we live in close proximity to each other, but just being to have like the Facebook platform to ask questions and have really when we have tricky cases or interesting situations and stuff, just being able to bounce it off of someone. Because when you graduate or even, if you're in practice for 5 years or 10 years, it's kind of an island of one sometimes where,
Mm,
you're very much left to your own thoughts and, ideas, which is always foundational and you need that. But it's always good to have a second opinion or just be able to bounce ideas or theories off of someone, I think is huge.
yeah.
And so,
And I have to ask, well, we did start working together in the clinic early on in your career, but really for the first maybe 6, 10 months, like I really didn't see you quite that often. It was mostly online because of your second kiddo and all that. So how would you say it's different? You mentioned our Facebook community. We have like a members only community, and then we have our Zoom classes and, our in-person meetings and stuff. How would you say that's different than just like hopping on Facebook into like a random acupuncture community and asking a question on a case?
I think it's a combination of two things. Is one, you are pretty familiar with everyone's like background and style, as well as kind of where they're at in their practice. And
Mhm.
so instead of just being like, oh, you need to do these points and just like, here, I'm going to spoon feed you this information,
Yeah.
you definitely kind of are able to, the Facebook community is very much a good place to be able to more understand what's going on in someone's practice, in someone's like a case study, but also then brainstorm together rather than just being like, here you go.
Here's
This
the
is my
point
opinion, my
protocol. Yeah.
opinion. And you get 14 different opinions in 3 different ways. So I think that's a big part of it. And then also too, again, just being like such a kinesthetic learner that I am,
Yeah.
having like the monthly and weekly study sessions was great because I could go and I can learn it and then I'll be practicing and I'll be something wrong and I wouldn't even realize, or I wouldn't be able to get to like, I'm like, this isn't working.
Mhm.
So just having like that check-in to like visually and like, in not in person, but live, I guess would be the right way to put it.
Yeah.
A check-in moment in a learning session.
Yeah. Well, and then how would you say that that's built in to the in-person workshops that we've had in ShinKyu for your practice?
I mean, it's definitely great because it it just it just really solidifies it.
Mm.
Because it goes from taking stuff as the foundations of it as to how do we actually fully apply this from start to finish, from the beginning of, hard diagnosis to needle technique to moxa application to like a full treatment in
So
that sense.
really like helping you to combine all of those different aspects of your practice into one solid
Mhm.
approach. Got it.
So taking all like the foundational skills, but making it so it's applicable in real life.
Yeah. Is that something that you feel that you already had from your TCM education?
I am not someone that can do protocols.
Mm,
And I feel like in terms of TCM is so much and so heavily protocols.
yeah.
And for me, I don't do protocols. Like I can't memorize stuff easily.
Yeah.
And even then, if it doesn't make sense for me, it just I feel like it doesn't work.
Well,
You know?
I mean, yeah. I feel that way too, but oftentimes I'm always unsure when you've gone through that whole TCM education, like how much does it in essence rewrite your brain and how much does it not, right? Because it is very much, they do a good job, I think, of really drilling those protocols into you and helping you to memorize them.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of people out there that maybe like you and I, that when they tell you to memorize 15 points for some tennis elbow or something, that your brain's like, great, I'll get it for the Quizlet,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then on to them.
Exactly. But I even noticed it like in the student clinic because I go and be like, okay, well, this is the protocols for insomnia. And I try it and they're like, oh, I don't really have any change. I'm like, okay.
Well, now what?
Yeah, exactly. It was like and now what? Like, where do you go from here?
Yeah,
It was just hard and tricky. And especially being a massage therapist that I like learned through my hands and like not just like in life, but like about someone's body. It was just
yeah,
so much more intuitive for me to be like, okay, what is going on in the body? And more than that, it's like, where is it going on?
which is so important.
Yeah.
So important and so foundational for any Japanese medicine style.
Mhm.
Such a huge thing that you pointed out right now. Well, I mean, I guess this kind of really nicely feeds into my next question, which is like, what has been the biggest mindset shift for you that has led to your success in your practice? And I would say for a definition of success, that you feel like really confident in your treatment, you feel confident in your patient's outcome, feel confident that your patient you're going to be able to retain that patient, and that, you're doing good for your client.
Yeah. I think it's a combination of two things is learning to trust my hands
Mm,
to diagnose, which is something it's not, I mean, being a massage therapist, I had that innate sense of it, but
yeah,
it was very different than what we learned in school, where
right.
we didn't, other than taking a pulse, there was not much focus on palpation. And so
Yeah.
learning to trust my hands for acupuncture to diagnose someone as well as then to go and treat and know where to treat and how to treat, I think has been pivotal.
Uh, well, and
um,
such a huge shift. I mean, I'm curious, because of your background and because of your history, did you go into acupuncture school expecting that they were going to teach you that confidence in your hands to treat?
I was expecting more, yes. I thought it would definitely be more palpation
Mm,
based, just because of like you have to find points and you take the pulse and stuff. But I mean, definitely the difference between like Japanese style versus like a TCM style. Like palpation is just so major
yeah.
point of Japanese style that, and it's not like we had absolutely no palpation, but it was very little focus on it,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Well, I think for most TCM education, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a lot more I almost feel that the training is a lot more geared towards you being a theorist rather than you being like a hands-on clinician. Would you say
Yeah.
that's accurate for your education?
I think for sure. I think theory, which is so important, like you can't
Very
disregard that.
important.
Because at the end of the day, both Chinese style, Japanese style, Korean style, it's all the same theory.
Yeah, they all have to.
With subtle differences. So it is so important. But yeah, I mean, there's so much theory and it's so abstract at first. That's very hard to, again, how I learned, it was very hard for me to like make it relatable into my treatments. And
Mm,
it's really finally through experience and then being able to like fully tie in that palpation piece. I was like, oh, it clicks. It makes sense now.
that's awesome. Well, and I think it really shows, our most recent in-person workshop where we met together to do the heart palpation workshop, it really shows in how much deeper you're able to feel into the body and how much then you're therefore able to understand the whole body. And then how, because of that, how much you're able to treat the body and to what level and to what extent you're able to help facilitate healing for that body as well is, it's just so important to be able to trust your hands. So yeah, so now that you have your traditional, like you have a TJM, a traditional medicine practice up and running. You do Shonishin, moxa, acupuncture. So for those of you who don't know, Shonishin is the pediatric treatment of children with Japanese non-insertive techniques. Um, how is that process going for you in your clinic?
It's been great. I think I don't think I'd be where I was. I don't think I'd be where I am now if I was not practicing Japanese stuff.
Tell me,
You
well,
know?
where would you envision yourself being in a, like, how would it look differently for you?
I think I think I would have forced myself to do a lot more protocols and not been able to get as good results. Just because that's kind of what I knew. And this point does this and this point does that, that kind of mindset. Whether or not it worked, I would just kind of keep trying it.
Well, you got to do something for your clients, right? So,
Yeah, exactly. I think without having the more Japanese style, either combination of two things. One, obviously the palpation, but two, just the subtlety behind Japanese style and the like harnessing key and being able to really understand if something needs tonification or dispersion.
mhm.
It's really why I feel like I get such great success with this treatment too. Um,
Mm,
rather than just going in and like, okay, these are the points that treat this. So I'm going to do these points and I'll leave you and then I'll come back and I'll take the needles out and you're done. Being able to go and really see how the body changes with every single needle that I do and then changing my treatment in order to really make sure it's individualized for that person in the moment.
that's a huge thing to be able to do. And like, honestly, I would say most practitioners are, sometimes at 10, 12, 15 years in their practice and are still unable to really grasp that change. So
Mhm.
I'm really, because how many years are you since you graduated?
I've been licensed for going on 3 years now. 3 years?
That's
No.
phenomenal, Deirdre.
Yeah.
Like, I know we
You're
work,
good.
I work with Deirdre a lot in the clinic, so we are very, very close. But I always consistently forget like how long you've been practicing. Because I would say most practitioners 3 years out of the gate are at a very different level than you are at right now. And I think that was very clear when we had our most recent workshop that, your practice has really been elevated. So yeah, I'm very happy for you.
Well,
Um,
thank
but
you.
okay, so if you think about life before and then after ShinKyu, what would you say the main differences are for your life, clinic, practice, the whole thing?
I think that I feel so much more inspired to keep on learning.
Really?
Yeah, because I think it was very easy for me to be like, if I was practicing more of like a TCM style, or if, kind of like the learning and stuff in school, I would very much kind of be bouncing from like workshop to practitioner to
Mhm.
practitioner, kind of searching a little bit. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
Rather than like having a focus of be like, this is what I want to do. I now want to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper,
Mm,
rather than being like, I am trying to figure out what is going to work for me.
Yeah.
So being able to really keep learning and like being so excited to keep learning rather than being like, this isn't what I'm looking for. Like at some point just you're like, well, at one point you're like, all right, well, I don't know. Should I become be doing this or not?
That's so, I mean, I can't say how many hundreds of acupuncturists I've spoken to before coming into ShinKyu have said something just like that, I talked to somebody yesterday who literally his resume is 3 pages long with his CEU courses, which is phenomenal. Like, I think it's amazing people are learning that much, but he still said the exact same thing that you just said, which is, I'm still looking for what works for me. Like, it
Yeah.
still isn't resonating with me. I'm still looking for something more. So just such a huge difference. And I'm so glad, like I'm honored and also so glad that you were able to find something for you that really resonated because that's a huge change for your life. Um, how would you say, like, has this affected your finances? Has it affected your personal life at all, being in Shinkyu?
I mean, obviously
I know
it's
finances are like a
my
no-no conversation.
no, I mean, I was like, it's been good for my finances because I feel like I'm so much more successful in my practice
Mm,
rather than, like if I was still kind of searching, I'm like, I don't know what's going to work for me or not. And I don't know what kind of results I'm going to get. Like just now practice. I mean, I guess I theoretically been practicing about 2.5 years after having my
yeah.
stuff. But I mean, it's been very like, been good.
Huh.
Um, so in that sense, very much, it's been great. Sorry, what was your other question?
Yeah, no, that's fine. That totally answers it. So, like, as far as being in Shinkyu, how important would you say the structure of Shinkyu was to the growth of your practice? Because
I
inside the program, it is quite
Yeah.
structured, actually, how we learn.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's really important to go through the videos. And like especially like the skill foundational ones. Just to be like, let me like go through them and then practice them. So like
Yeah.
for me, I do better if I do like one modality at a time. So it's like, let me go through the needling ones and then practice and get, by no means have any mastery behind it, but at least like feel like I don't even want to say understand, but like I'm familiar with it. And then
Right.
moving on to moxa and then moving on to like shonishin. But for me especially it's the monthly meetings that are so great.
Yeah. Well,
Like
I
that.
mean, to have that mentorship as you're moving through
Yeah.
material in a course, because I know I had to, for my recent NCCM re-up, I had to take like 20 or something CEUs that I was missing. It was a god awful amount. And I signed up for a package of classes because I needed to get it done. And I had to sit through these online lectures. And I can't even tell you how boring. Oh my goodness, it was so boring. You just sit there and listen forever, but there's no application to it. And there was no mentorship afterwards. So I know 100% for a fact I got nothing out of any of those workshops. I ended up
Hmm.
paying like, I don't know how much it was, like $200-300, and I got nothing out of it except for my research, which I need. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, as it turns out, acupuncture is a hands-on practice. Like there's
it turns out, as it turns,
a
well,
really good turns out.
how important would you say it is for you particularly to have lifetime access to ShinKyu? For those of you who don't know, when you join ShinKyu, it's a lifetime access to the program. So how important would you say that is for you in particular?
I mean, what I actually like it best for is you find it funny, but it's actually part of the theory part of it. Um, Only because it's like it's a good refresher, but also it helps me solidify my hands-on practice
Hmm.
and just being able to be like, okay, why did I choose this point or why do I want to go here? And I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, like this is a long channel and this is what it does, blah blah blah. And it's not that you can't get that from a book, but it's very much more applicable to the foundational skills that are taught in Shinkyu.
Right.
And so it makes it nice to have that reference point constantly. Um, and then I do enjoy going through, especially like the Shanghan Lun videos and the Q&A videos too.
Yeah, the Q&As, and lately especially, the Q&As have been quite interesting. for me too,
Yeah.
honestly. Well, what advice would you have for anybody who is thinking of joining ShinKyu?
I would definitely say that if you are looking for, if you're looking to find a way between these are how the points work and this is my results I want to get. It's that great stepping stone between the two. And it's not just because it's like, oh, yeah, you don't necessarily have to use point protocols, but it's like, these are the points that I'm told this from the textbook, this is how they work. But what do they feel like? And is this really the right point for me or is it not?
Mm,
Actually being like, all right, let's use spleen 6 in order to drain damp because they have spleen deficiency and, excess water. Great, awesome. But is that the right point to use or is it not? In that sense.
that's such a huge, huge gap, I think, for most, not most, every single person that I talk to in our field. I think that's really what they're missing. I think you hit it right on the head, that like that huge gap between the protocol and the explanation of the point and the theory of the point and the actual application and then results of the points and how you use them. There's a huge gap there that's just, from what I understand, not very covered in TCM education.
Yeah. And I think it's being able to not only like start taking that step towards that, but understanding why.
Yeah.
And so then being recognized, like being able to apply that like familiarity and that knowledge to your full treatment, and being able to like be like, okay, like let's individualize this treatment. I mean, that's the beauty of acupuncture is that it's not a Western approach of like, here's this drug, it's supposed to help with this condition. Acupuncture very much is supposed to be like, this is your body, this is what's going on in your body. Let's treat what we see.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I agree 100%. But I really, really appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience within ShinKyu and your advice to other practitioners, because listening to things like this can really be inspirational for a lot of people who are struggling in their practice and are on that little island of one, as you mentioned. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Deirdre.
thank you.
All right. And then for everybody who is watching this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the little bell to be notified of future videos coming all about ShinKyu, Japanese acupuncture, traditional Japanese acupuncture, moxa, shonishin, and so much more. And if you're interested in joining ShinKyu, please be sure to set up an interview. It's linked in the description box below.